You want clarity in your plan, not just growth in your portfolio. Imagine having your entire financial life, every account, every asset, every detail on a single sheet of paper. That's what an asset map does. And today we're going to pull back the curtain on why the most successful families never go without one. So stay tuned, you won't want to miss this.
We're glad you're with us here on Legacy Beyond Wealth. He is Rob Shelton at Axio Wealth Management. I am Ben George, and talking about this one-page financial picture that changes everything. So as we get started on this, let me give you a little bit of background before we jump into the discussion with Rob. Now, according to the Financial Planning Association data, over 60% of households don't have a consolidated record of their accounts, which obviously will lead to some inefficiencies and missed opportunities. Behavioral finance studies show that people make better, less emotional decisions when they see information visually rather than in spreadsheets. And finally, the average person has over 14 financial accounts spread across 5, 6, 7 institutions. And as you can imagine, the asset maps bring order to that chaos. So, Rob, welcome in. Let's talk about this a little bit and start with the asset map. I mentioned it, but what is it and why does this actually matter?
Yeah, so we came into this a few years ago. We always get together at the end of every year. We kind of call it our company retreat, and we're always looking at how we can add more value to a client. And this concept of an asset map came up. And of course, we all scoured different types of softwares that could be able to be used to help bring this consolidated one-page sheet together, and we just couldn't find one. So we did the next best thing and created our own. And basically, it's where it lays out in a very visual manner your accounts, but it's not using just numbers and black and white. We're using pictures and we're using different types of graphics that can be used. So it really gives a client a real quick snapshot of where all their assets are held. And we go over that every year during the third quarter and review it with them. And I love it because clients really have gotten to love what is shown on that document, because they know that if anything was to happen to them, this is the one page that we could use, like you talked about, over 14 different accounts at 7 different institutions, where we could be able to make sure that things are lined up and passed on the way that they should be. But also it helps out from an asset protection standpoint, because we can be able to review things and how those accounts are held and maybe what assets have maybe more risk exposure to them than maybe one client would want to be able to have. And I think it's a great analogy to kind of use the Google Maps idea. It's really there to be able to help you know where your starting point is at in an accurate manner. And I can't tell you how many times we sat down with a client, and as you get older in life, you start to accumulate more stuff. I don't know if you found that to be the same for you, Ben, or not, but we tend to accumulate more stuff, and maybe that's an old account here or something of that nature. We don't want that to be forgotten. We want to be very proactive. And so this really brings clarity and confidence for clients across all their different financial institutions and business interests that they have.
Well, you mentioned this is something you do with your top clients every year. Why is it important to do this annually?
Oh, man, life changes. If I had a slogan to go up over my door, it's going to be life changes, right? We have that saying, man plans and God laughs. Things always are constantly in a flux of change. And I just got done meeting with a client prior to jumping on here to meet with you, Ben, and he was talking to me about he's changing states. He loves living in South Carolina. So he's selling the business that he's in now and starting a new one up in South Carolina and moving. And obviously that's going to have a huge change, but they don't have to be that big of a difference. In reviewing it annually, sometimes we look at things and go, oh, that's totally fine. Things didn't change at all, but it gives you that peace of mind that you've reviewed it. But boy, more often than not, we usually find that there's changes that take place out there. The other reason we like to make sure it's always up to date is so we could be able to hand this off to different professionals to be able to use. People don't often talk to their tax professional every year about where all their accounts are at. And if you ever talk to a tax professional, one of their biggest frustrations is they'll kind of look at last year's, but if you opened up a new bank account, there's a new tax document, most likely, or a new investment account, a new document that professional needs to be aware of. And so being able to hand a one-page asset map to them that shows where all the assets are held, boy, that really makes their job so much more easier as well. And then I'm going to share one more story with you here, if that's okay,
Yeah,
Ben.
go for it.
We went over this just this last week with another client. And as we reviewed it, every year I have my staff go fact check all the data based on public records for real estate. And so we want to say, is that property actually held in the right name? And we did that for a client this last year. And come to find out, the attorney that had drafted their trust had made an error, an unintended error on their deed. And it went to the county to be recorded. The county didn't reach out and tell the client that it was a deed that wasn't complete. And so they just recorded the deed, but that deed wouldn't have actually moved it into the trust. It wasn't until we got involved and looked at the asset map and were looking to update it that we had called the county and found out that this issue had existed. And it was nice to be able to catch that error, that we could be able to fix a small issue that would have turned into a bigger issue had something happened to the client and they passed away.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that. That kind of explains why it's so important. This obviously sounds like something every family should have. So if you don't have an asset map, what are you missing out on?
Man, like I mentioned before, Ben, your professionals, this is really key. You give one to your estate planning attorney, and if it's all up to date, that it makes that job so much more easier for them, but even better, makes it more effective in being able to serve you, your tax professional, your insurance professional, whoever it is that you're using. By having that up to date, you're really helping those professionals be the most effective that they possibly can. And it bridges a gap of what you think you have to actually knowing what you have. And my wife loves this document because she's always saying, honey, you're taking care of most everything, and if anything happened to you, I need to know where everything's at. And so this asset map has been such a benefit. And we find that most of the time in couples, that one's maybe a little more proactively involved in the finances than the other. And this gives some great confidence to that other spouse who may not be as engaged, that there's a place they can go to see where everything they own is at in case something happened to their spouse. And it also encourages intentional wealth planning, because now we're looking at everything, having discussions about that asset. And sometimes there's assets that aren't performing that you may have forgot about, maybe because there's a little bit of PTSD involved with that asset because of a poor choice. But we don't have to just hide it or forget about it. Let's be intentional about it. If it's a bad investment or a bad asset, let's talk about what's the plan to be able to translate that from being a bad investment or asset into a good investment or asset that's out there for you.
Are you ready to unlock the freedom to live your best life? Schedule your no-cost 60-minute discovery meeting with our team today. During this session, we'll take the time to understand your family's story and financial dreams. Together, we'll craft a personalized roadmap designed to help you achieve your goals. Let's explore how we can unlock the freedom for you and your family to thrive. Just click the link in the description of today's show to get started.
Yeah, remember I said over 60% of households don't have consolidated records of their finances, and the average person has almost 15 accounts across multiple institutions. So there's a lot to keep up with, right? And again, tying this all together and some final thoughts, Rob, this asset map can be so beneficial for people.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, in talking with other professionals, this is one thing that really sets our firm apart, because they're telling us that there's not a lot of other financial institutions that are taking that time and level of detail to map everything out on a single page. And it's it takes some creativity sometime from our staff, because I'm adamant it's got to stay to a single page so you can have this one pager to be able to look at. But if you can imagine waking up a year from now knowing that every professional you trust, being your tax professional, your attorneys, your insurance agent, along with your financial advisor, are all reading from the exact same playbook. I mean, there's no more guesswork. There's no more missing pieces. just clarity, confidence, and a plan that works quietly in the background so you can focus on living your best life. And that's really the best way I could kind of sum that up, Ben, is that if you don't have one, you really should look to work with a professional that can put one together for you, because it will elevate the type of planning that's being done to help you live that best life.
Well, you can go ahead and start that process with Axio Wealth Management too, if you'd like. You can learn more in their discovery call. It's easy, about an hour, but you start talking through some of these things, getting Rob a better idea of where you stand, what your goals are, what your vision is, what you want your legacy to look like. All that can be found at axiowm.com, and a lot more information on the website as well for you if you're looking to learn more about Axio Wealth. But hopefully this kind of paints a picture of getting this everything together in one place and how much it can actually help every aspect of your planning, and hopefully build a better, more successful retirement down the road. But Rob, as always, thanks for taking us through this. I think it's really interesting, and something hopefully people will reach out and try to get more information on.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate your time.